Hello everyone, it is Professor Oleander again, and I am coming to you with Silent Hunter 3, which is the third Silent Hunter in the series. It came right after number 2 and just before number 4, and it's arguably the greatest submarine simulator that's ever been made. Now, what's so special about this one is just the depth of the simulation in terms of being hardcore, and you might hear our sound guy in the background giving me an update. But this is it's very immersive. It can be very, very challenging. You can make it as hard as you want to. That's what she said. You can adjust the realism of it. You can make it where you can go to external view. You can have map contact updates. You can take all those away. You can make it harder for you than it was for the crews during World War II. So, as I said, this is Silent Hunter 3. Came out in 2005. Graphics are they're meh for 2005. They weren't anything groundbreaking. As far as I know, this was their first foray into Ubisoft, that is, Ubisoft Romania to be more specific. This was really their first foray into something where you could move around inside a 3D environment like this. I think you could do that in Silent Hunter 2, but not to the extent you can do it in this one. The fireworks going off in the background. I don't know if you can hear those or not, but but yeah, just looking around here, we'll go over this very, very quickly. This is the version that you would get if you purchase it from Steam. I think you can get it for under $10 now. It's a very good game, if I haven't said that already. And like I said, it's, as far as my opinion goes, it's the most accurate submarine simulator you can get, and I've played a couple. It kind of harkens to Silent Service, similar. Not very similar to 688i or Dangerous Waters, which are the more modern ones. It's not the most accurate game, but it's fairly close. And you got to remember, this is a Type 7B submarine, and there's really only one Type 7 submarine left over from World War II that's in existence that wasn't sunk, and that's the one that's over in Norway, serves as a memorial. There is the set that was used for the movie Das Boot, which was actually the inspiration for this game. There's a lot of references to Das Boot in it. There's some similarities to it, I should say. But yeah, this is very, very close to what you would see. Just looking at the torpedo data computer here and there, and then there's our sounding gauge. We've got our engine telegraphs over here, and the helmsman station, our dive plane operators, deep water gauge, shallow water gauge, the tachometers for the engines, and then we have our compressed air, oxygen content, and then all these valves right here, these are for trim tanks. This is for surfacing and submerging, and of course the dive plane controls, and then our battery. So these particular boats, these were, and that's what they were boats. They were surface vessels with the capability of operating under the surface. They were able to dive, and that was about the extent of it. They had two fairly good size diesel engines in the back that could either serve as direct drive through a transmission for the propeller shafts, or they could be used to run a generator which would charge up the batteries that would serve as the underwater propulsion. And just going through the ship here, go back here into the quarters. There's our captain's quarters right there with our bunk, and we were really the only ones that had any kind of privacy. It's not modeled in this game, but that would be the forward quarters where the first officer and the chief and the bow torpedo room would be. And we have the sound room right here where the hydrophone station is, and our sound operator, and then our radio operator back here. He's monitoring radio traffic, and in later portions of the war he would be monitoring this, which is a radio or radar intercept tool, which would be used to pick up planes if we were running on the surface. But right now we're below the surface, and we'll just go up here into the conning tower. And while I'm here in the conning tower, we'll just very quickly go through the menu, but it's very basic. Same thing, we have all of the indicators for the submarine. We'll go into more detail of those in a later video. I'm going to make a whole series on this, but I don't want to get too in-depth about the base game because I play modded. There's hundreds of mods available for this game that change everything from the color of your ship all the way up to the realism level that you're able to obtain in the game. So we'll just go through and look at the maps. This is our basic navigation map. These black lines here indicate these are hydrophone contacts, and then there's our ship right there. This is the tactical map. This is used to set the torpedo data computers, that way we can plot a torpedo solution. Going through, this is our crew and our status. If we take damage, we can click on the individual departments and it will tell us where if they're being repaired, how long it's going to take, if we're taking on water, the extent of damage, things like that. This is our mission briefing. This is stuff from the BDU. We can get our orders and our briefing. It tells us there are 5 targets available. To graduate this course, you must sink at least the large cargo and 3 other ships. And just moving forward, just kind of cycles through the camera, and then we get to the external view, and there you can see all of our ships. We have a cargo ship here, a larger cargo. I think this is a medium cargo. There's a tanker off that way. Yeah, that's the tanker. And then I've forgotten where we were. There we are. We can go down and we can look at our wonderful Type 7B submarine. Look here on the side. These are the hydrophones, and our propellers back here. Very basic, very nice. So that being said, let's sync something. So here we are in the telescope view, and I'll bring the HUD back up. And again, telegraph controls. This is our speed controls, and then there's our steering controls, and then this is our depth control. And then over here, these are the teleport options. And I'm just kind of breezing through this because we're not going to be using them throughout the course of this because the mods that I'm using don't have these same menus. So let's just go ahead and raise the periscope. And we would raise it just enough. This yellow line right here indicates where the water level is, and you can see we're just over 12 meters. This red indicates where the head is, and we're just above the waves. So I'm just gonna get about right there. There's 2 magnification levels on this periscope, 1.5 and 6. And we see a target just off the port bow. Click onto the lock button, and that will lock us to the center of mass. And we want to get that horizontal crosshair right there, just at the water level. And what you would do next is we'd pull up our handbook, and U-boat captains would have a book that would have silhouettes of various ships. And since most ships were built to a standard height and had basic dimensions that were relatively known throughout the world, we would go through the pages and we would look for this ship. Most captains would know it off the top of their head, and click this button and we'll look at it from different angles. And I'm looking at a coastal merchant, so I check this, and you see that it pops up over here on our notepad. This gives us the length, the beam, which is how wide it is, the tonnage. It's just under 2,000 tons. Its maximum speed is 9 knots. The draft, which is the displacement, or how deep below it can be, it's just a shade under 7 meters. And then the mast height is 22.7. Now this is the important one. So when we go over here and we click on range, it gives us a separate menu, and then we click on this button here, and then another line shows up in our periscope. These periscopes had a split prism statometer, which would use to, you would bring the line down until it just touches the tip of the mast, and we'll click on it. And what that does is because we know the mast height, we know how tall or what this length is, and then we know what the angle is. We're looking here at 1.6 degrees. So we have the angle here and then the length here. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem and some basic trigonometry to figure out what this distance is, and it came up with 782. Now we can verify that very quickly by going into the map and cheating. I'll click on this tool helper here. We find our ship that we're looking at, which is this one. We click on the back, drag it past the bow, and I'm looking at, it's going to be going down about course 140. We come over here and take our protractor, click on the lead of the course that we had plotted, come to the middle of the ship, click again, and then drag down to our ship. And I'm looking at 34 degrees. So that is the angle on bow. If we were standing on this ship and we were trying to locate our submarine, it would be 34 degrees off of the starboard bow. So we go back to our periscope. We'll do the range again, which is what I meant to check. We'll take our protractor and to the middle of the boat, and I'm looking at 0.8, which is 800 meters. So we have our range and we have an angle on bow, which is what I was going to check to begin with. We'll just check our statometer and make sure that it's working hunky-dory. Just very carefully bring this down. I'm holding the control key so it'll scroll gently. We'll just bring that down to the top. Right there, 791, that's close enough to 800 for government work. Click the check mark, so that appears on our notepad. The angle on bow we said was 35. So we will move that to here. Click the check mark again. 35 degrees to starboard. We're not going to worry about the speed because it's a stationary target. Next thing we will do is we will go to the attack map. We will push the red button. Everything is pretty much set. We said 35 degrees, which is about right there. We said the range is just under 800, so we'll just click that there. This green line is our torpedo solution, and you see it's going right through the center of the ship. Once we have that set, we hit the button again. That locks everything in. So now we can independently go between torpedoes and set the settings we want for them. So for torpedo 1, we're going to set our depth to about 3 meters, 2.5, 3 meters. We'll set the speed to fast. Impact is the pistol's going to be set for magnetic, and then we're going to hit the Q button, and that opens up the tubes. Select tube 2, fast speed, about 3, magnetic pistol, hit Q again, and then same thing for number 3. We'll go with 2 meters, fast, hit Q. Now all 3 tubes are open. We go back to we'll go to the external view just so we can see. If we look on the front of our boat, we see the 3 tubes, 1, 2, and 3 are open. Number 4 is going to be held in reserve in case we miss. Unlock the scope. Wherever the center line of this crosshair is, wherever this vertical line falls, that is where the torpedo is going to be fired. So we can fire over here, we can fire over there, but we're going to aim towards the bow of this ship, about right there where the anchor is. We'll select tube number 1 and hit the big red button. And tube 1 is away. We'll go ahead and fire tube number 2. For 3, I have a feeling that this ship is going to start rolling here in just a second, so we're going to fire tube 3 about the time that we see the stack light up. If we're looking at their smokestack right here, about the time they spot that torpedo, they're going to be trying to get out of Dodge. And they may not spot it. Yep, there it is. We'll hit number 4. There's 1, and it looks like number 2 is going to hit as well. There's hit number 2, and we blew it in half. It must have been carrying gasoline. But yeah, that can happen. You can do what's called a keel shot, which is to send a torpedo underneath the keel of a boat, and it will detonate up underneath here, and it will do what's called breaking their spine, and it'll split a ship in half just like this. And yeah, bad stuff happens. You see a little oil slick here on the surface of the water. A lot of smoke, and again, this is with no mods at all. This is as downloaded from Steam. You can make the explosions a lot better and a lot better. We just got a radio message. But yeah, there's our oil slick. This is one thing I don't like about the stock game, is that we can only go up so far. But yeah, this must have been carrying crude oil or something, or some kind of gasoline. Very big oil slick, and if you can bust a ship in half, that's the equivalent of a critical hit. So yeah, very nice touch. And again, this is stock game, so we're going to have a little fire burning right here on the surface. And there you can see the ship's going to the bottom. And we'll get a little plume. As it hits the floor. That actually worked better than I planned, and of course all the evidence has been destroyed. So I'm going to stop this part of the video, and in the next one we will play the modded version of the game, and then we'll start our first patrol, and I will see you in the next video. So